This little grasshopper is Ellie, and this is Ellie's roadmap to success. Boy, isn't she cute. And I think that's why you were getting so much trouble, because she's so cute she can get away with things. So basically in this session, she's a puppy. I'm going to go ahead and put her down. But basically, a lot of her unwanted behaviors are really a result of her guardians inadvertently rewarding her for things that they don't like. Ellie, if I pet her right now, I'm telling her jumping up on me is the way that you should ask someone to pet you. And it might be easier if you just hold it on your knee. So basically, a lot of us train our dogs to misbehave because if the dog comes up and jumps on me, I pet it consistently. After a while, the dog's like, yeah, jumping up on the human gets me attention. Now, inadvertently, a lot of us inadvertently train our dogs to misbehave. The dog comes and sits in front of us, we ignore the dog. It comes to us, we ignore it. It lays down, we ignore it. It goes and digs into the plant over there, we immediately get up and correct it. Well, any attention is validating to dogs. And if good attention is the same thing as bad attention, come. Then the dog is going to start offering you the bad attention or the bad activities to get the attention. Yes, I'm going to put you back here because you're just so cute and I haven't got a chance to really pet you a lot during the session. Yes, you're going to give me some kisses. When she gives you kisses, use passive training and say the word kisses or smoochies. And then you can get her to do that on command. So we went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if she comes up and nudges me or jumps up, if I pet her, I'm rewarding her for doing what I don't want. So instead I give her a counter order. When she sits, I like to pet under the chin. I'm going to say the word sit and only the word sit. And then I can pet her for as long or as little as I want. But now I'm rewarding a desired action of behavior instead of something we don't. Are you going to struggle? Oh, I'd rather if you just stay here. How about if I rub your belly? Give you scratches on your chest. So basically, for petting with a purpose is if the dog comes up and nudges you or jumps up on you or parks at you for attention, you're going to give the dog a counter order, tell her to sit. When she sits, you're going to pet her and under her chin and say the word sit. Now I like using this hand motion. Let's see if I can do it here. To put her dog into a sit. Sit. And then I scratch under the chin. When a dog feels good about itself, his nose is in the air. So then I can pet her as long as I want. So what I'm telling her is if you tell me what to do, nothing happens other than I give you a counter order. And if you follow the counter order, then you get a reward. After a while, she'll come start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. Now, if she's already sitting here, you can ask her to come and sit over here. She can ask her to lay down. Don't ask her to shake. That's kind of confusing. And right here, off. So when she jumps up at me, I could have told her to sit, or I can retract and then disengage. And as soon as she gets off, pet her and say the word off. Now, I also went over passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you a behavior that you want unsolicited. So every time the dog comes to you, pet it and say come. Every time she sits down, pet her and say sit. Every time she lays down, pet her and say crash. Every time she takes a drink of water, say agua. Takes her food, we're going to say fajitas or whatever it is. Puppy, puppy, puppy. And the lower you go, the more attractive it is for the dog. Then I raise it up, put her in a sit, and I didn't even have the treat there, sit. I should have said come there because that's a harder challenge. So from her perspective, it looks like I have some in my hand. Well, I just showed her I don't have it. She sat down, and then I could pet and say whatever it is. But one of the things I noticed the guardians were doing is they were saying her name over and over. Come here, Ellie, 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 sit, 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 sit. Well, the more you say it, the less you mean it. So I'd like the guardians here to start playing a little bit of hard to get with Ellie. So when Ellie comes up and nudges, tell her to give her a counter order, tell her to sit once. If she sits within 3 seconds, and we pet her. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, we go on to other things. We're people of the world, we got stuff going on. So she's trying to photo mom a little bit. And it's cute for a dog to jump up when we're a puppy, but when they're this size, it's not as cute when they're this size. And there will be a time where she's muddy and she's scratching at you. You're not going to want her to do it. Now, like I said, a lot of us train our dogs to misbehave. The dog jumps at the door or chews the screen at the door, and we immediately get up and shoo the dog out or let it in. We're teaching the dog that's the best way to do it. So what I would do is I'd make sure you fix your screen or put a plexiglass or something over it so that she knows that she can't get to it, so you're not reacting. We also went over a number of rules to help flip the leader follower dynamic, and one of them would help with that situation. So I go to the door and I tell the dog to sit once. If she sits, and she is sat behind the camera, ironically, but if she sits, then I would open the door and let her out. But if she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and I sit down somewhere. I wait for 1 minute and set a timer because you won't realize how fast it'll happen. And then after 1 minute, go back to the door and command her to sit again 1 time. If she doesn't sit, then I walk away for 2 minutes this time. Next time for 4 minutes, and so on. I keep double the length of time until when I go and say sit and she sits, boom, that door flies open. Well, now we're conditioning the dog that sitting causes the door to open. So instead of pounding or chewing on the door, she goes sits at the door. make sure you do watch her, because otherwise, if that doesn't work, she'll go back to the old method. But if you get in a habit of doing that, eventually, like I said, the dog will sit as its way of asking to go out the door. Some other rules we talked about: not allowing the dog in the furniture. We kind of position the cushions like you see over here so she can't get up there. But you can get letter X mats. X mats are little plastic, foldable deals. They have little plastic spikes on them. They're about $11. You can get them on Amazon. You probably need 3 for the couch, 1 for there, 1 for there, unless you want to do this with the cushions. Now, if she starts pulling the cushions off, then you might have to put the X mats there. And then there's an ottoman that she likes to jump up on. I would either put tinfoil on it or turn it on its side, or keep it occupied with something so she just gets out of a behavior pattern of jumping up on it. Now, other rules: she shouldn't be allowed to be within 7 feet of the humans who are eating. The humans need to eat something before they feed her. She should not be allowed in the kitchen when we're eating food or preparing food. And remember, we can set her up for success. Sit. By cooking a little bacon and pretend cooking. So when she comes over, it looks like we're cooking, but as soon as she crosses that threshold, we're going to use that third escalating consequence, well, the first and the third, hiss and start marching towards her. Make sure whoever's feeding her eats something first. What I do is I put food in the bowl, and I use that third consequence like I showed you guys in the leadership exercise. Don't let her approach across a certain line on her way to her food. Then you get a chip, cracker, something you can eat in 5 or more bites. When you get done eating, you invite her over, say, Ellie, Ellie. When she comes over and takes her first bite of food, you say the word fajitas, or whatever the word is you want to use. So for 2 months, every time she takes that first bite of food, she hears fajitas once. After about a couple months, you can say fajitas, and she's like, oh yeah, I want some fajitas. That's dinner time for me. Now, she's on Royal Canin right now. She had a really sad, she had a lot of health issues. My dog is actually on Royal Canin as well. I'm late to the session here today because I had to go pick up some Royal Canin at my vet because we're going to have a blizzard tomorrow. And so I want to make sure I had some at home. Well, what I found out from when it comes to dogs for food, the temperature of the food is more important than the taste. The smell is the most important thing. So what I would do is put warm water in with her dry kibble. Really what I do is I put enough water so the kibble's floating in it first. I swirl it around and I put it up on a shelf and let it sit for about an hour or 2. Then when it comes time to feed her, I put actually a couple pints, I have a bigger dog, and I swirl it around. It makes like a stew. Well, the dog has to drink the water first before it can get to the food. And when it gets to the food, it's kind of the consistency of mashed potatoes. So she can't wolf it down. She eats pretty fast. But the temperature makes it more appealing to her. So right now she likes food, and if she has any problems, then just keep on doing what you're doing. But if you do run into it, adding some warm water can help. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over and it's important to remember, enforcing a rule is not being mean, and breaking a rule as a reward is confusing as heck for the dog. So make sure that you don't do that. Keep the rules in place for a minimum of 30 days, or as long as there's problems still going on. Let me see, what else? We went over potty training, and I would really make an effort of taking her outside for potty every single time for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and jack powder like I talked about in the video. You should be able to nip that in the bud. And eventually she gets to the point where she's like, I dare not waste this urine inside. This stuff is valuable. If I do it outside, I'll get paid for it. And I would try to let her out through the downstairs door instead of the upstairs door, because we have the steps outside are open. And as the other video we have above shows how to teach your dog how to use the stairs. I would practice the stair thing. I would try to practice that like 2 or 3 times a day. Probably shouldn't take you more than a week before she's just running up and down the stairs without any hesitation. Let me see, the potty training, just follow the steps in that video and consistently for about a week to 10 days, and you should have that nipped in the bud as well. Now, the leadership exercise that I did here is something you might want to do. One of the guardians has some mobility issues, and so we might want to have the other guardian who's a little bit more dexterous kind of get that really going first, and then have the second. When I do this with little kids, with a family with little kids, I usually do it until I think the dog has it. Then I have the dad do it, and mom do it, and then by the time I have a little 4-year-old kid doing their drunk walk over it, the dog is kind of on autopilot. Do that if you want to do that. It's a nice way to help you practice those escalating consequences, having good timing, as well as the dog respecting and listening to you. And also understand, just because there's a treat on the floor doesn't mean I can have it. Ellie, come. Well, is there anything else you want me to cover in this video? Hopefully, we're going to get you signed up for our puppy classes. She's only 6 months old, and that will really help with the biting and nipping. That's something I should talk about too. So what we want to do is, if she touches me with her mouth, with her teeth, I should say, even if it's accidental, I'm going to yelp like a little girl, like, ah! And then freeze for a second. Withdraw and freeze for a second. And if she jumps up and gets more rambunctious, usually means the dog's tired and cranky and needs a nap. So I put her in the long-term confinement area or kennel at that point and walk away so she doesn't have access to chewing on it. The second thing that I do after the yelp, though, is I typically pull out a not a bully stick, an antler, nylabone, or something like that, and tease the dog so she wants to get it and let her latch onto it. We're redirecting her to chewing on it, and then we let her take it and she goes off and chews it. And then immediately pick up another one of those, put it in your pocket so you always have one at all times. Make sure you get a couple antlers and a water buffalo horn, a small water buffalo horn for her, but some hard chew things might really help. And then the third thing you can do is the fourth quadrant of operant conditioning, which is to remove your negative punishment, remove yourself from the equation. So I want you to play with me. That's why I'm chewing on you. Well, you chewing on me causes me to leave. And if you do that crisply, pretty quickly, after a while, she's like, well, that's not what I want. Now, when we combine that with petting with a purpose and passive training, she's going to start offering those behaviors. And if she goes to our puppy class, she will realize that biting others doesn't feel as good to be on the receiving end, because she will receive it from the other puppies. And also she'll come home nice and pooped. Now also remember those carrots. So get some baby carrots, and if she's licking on something, if she's licking on this lamp, I would get the carrots and I'd wrap on the floor, and she turns and looks at it, drop them from a couple inches. She'll turn around and she'll grab all the carrots and eat them. She gets her chew on through something that's healthy and actually wards off a type of cancer. And now she's no longer looking at this. When she gets up, she walks off in that direction. You redirected her away from whatever it was that she was trying to chew on. But if you make a big deal out of things, you'll make it the forbidden fruit, and she'll want to continue doing that. So our puppy class will really help with the chewing and mouthing and nipping. And remember, don't engage with her. If she's petting, if she jumps up on you, you have to stop petting her immediately. She puts her paw on your arm, stop petting her. That's a dominance move. And remember to use those watchwords. Paycheck means I suspect you've forgotten to pet with a purpose. Recognize or testify means that you just you are missing an opportunity to reward her. Yes, Mr. Mrs., you're like a frog in a frying pan right now. And so help each other out. Also come up with a list of your vocabulary words. And if you say somebody saying come here, you say, oh, what's the word? Oh, come. Or your word in this case is boomer. That means poop or pee to her. All right, well, this is Ellie. And hopefully we're going to see you in our puppy class. I'm going to talk to your mom and try to give her a deal to get you in there, starting in a couple weeks. Well, this is Ellie's roadmap to success. Oh, thank you for the kisses. And remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.